America about all sorts of issues and responding and putting together.
We get stuff about what's said on Fox News all the time.
It would be surprising. I just don't understand what the particular goal is.
The particular goal is to
email the White House about things about this particular issue.
Well, it's to get
All right, now to the guy asking those tough questions and the Secret Service routinely beat to a pulp seconds later. I'm kidding. Our own Major Garrett outside the White House. Major, that got a little...
bumps, no bruises, Neil.
There you go. That got a little testy. What's the feeling there as to whether this has gotten to be a bad PR issue?
Well, look, the White House is in a very difficult position, and it put itself there. First of all, Robert Gibbs told Jake Tapper and myself, we are not going to collect these email addresses. Well, my natural follow-up is, then why did you solicit them in the first place? And if you're not going to collect them, how can you then comply with National Archives rules that say any information sent to the White House and collected by the White House must, at least for archive purposes alone, to be consistent with the law, be kept? And I also said, well, are you going to collect this information and possibly give it to the Democratic National Committee or Organizing for America, the president's re-election campaign and waiting at the Democratic National Committee? Now, the White House said these emails will never leave the White House and will never ever go to the Democratic National Committee. I thought perhaps they were trying to select and solicit emails from folks who were supportive of health care as part of this, alerting them to quote-unquote disinformation. Apparently that's not their goal either. But if you're not going to collect them, how can you comply with the law? And if you're going to comply with the law and collect them, why'd you ask for them? It's all a bit... But it's all a bit tough to untangle.
It is, and the tough part for me to untangle is asking or recruiting supporters to sort of fish this information out, essentially acting, I don't know if this was the White House's intent, as snitches. And that is what raises a lot of hackles. What do you make of that?
Well, I've covered Washington, Neil, since 1990, and obviously technology has changed. Means of gathering information and distributing information have evolved and are much more rapid and are much more electronically based. But I've never ever seen before a White House essentially solicit information from Americans about what they think is disinformation or wrong information proffered by other Americans. I mean, I've just never seen that. And I think it suggests the level of unease the White House has about where it is on the fact arguments behind health care. The polling data indicates across the board, and it's not just cherry-picking any poll. You look at any poll right now, it shows increasing anxiety in the public mind about the implications of health care reform. That's what happens in a Democratic debate. And the White House very aggressively wants to counteract what it calls disinformation. Well, no political entity in America is more powerful at collecting information or disseminating information than a White House, any White House. And so to ask other Americans to sort of bring them and flag for them things that they think are disinformation that they hope the White House would agree is disinformation is just something I've never ever seen before. And so I was just trying to find out what's the point and why on this issue, why not something else? It shows you the level of intensity this White House brings to the health care debate, which in the minds of some Americans might be alarming in of itself.
Does your White House pass still work?
Yes, indeed, Neil.
Good. Okay, I'm good. Just looking out for you, buddy. I'm always got your back. Major Garrett outside the White House. Oh, for now, he's outside the White House. All right, well, my next guest says one thing is for sure. The more they snoop, the louder these protests are going to grow. Kevin McConnell certainly thinks so. The host of Extreme Radio joins us right now. Kevin, what do you make of this and the boundaries you feel and have written very eloquently these cross?
Well, Neil, thanks for having me back, first of all. Secondly, I think that this is one of those things where Americans just know, when they see it in black and white right in front of them, that something's wrong with it. And one of the things that the graphic that you put up didn't say was another piece of the quote that was from the White House blog that kind of embodied the specific forms of communication that they would like you to report on. One was emails, one was websites, but one was also, and I took great delight in noting this for people that had not seen it, was casual conversation. What business is it of the federal government's, particularly the executive branch, what my casual conversation is? They have no right to be asking my neighbors, anyone around me, if they want to know my opinion, they can come and ask me directly. That's fine. They have no business asking people around me to begin to assume suspicious activity with me based on a purely different interpretation of what President Obama says universal health care will be, as opposed to what I think it will be.
You know, I thought about it this way. I was trying to give the benefit of every doubt here and the concern about freedom of speech and all that. But I just kept thinking, boy, if this had happened in the last administration, if they had put out an edict like, look, we'd like you to track anyone who's opposed to the Iraq war or buildup, let us know. Or even back down to Richard Nixon and the whole debate over the Pentagon Papers prior, we want to keep track of the folks who might be talking about our involvement and how we got into Vietnam, et cetera, that actually predeceased the Nixon administration. Quite a different reaction, I would think, in the way it would be covered.
Well, Neil, if you look at this, I think the really big wazoo here is that you've got two different things combining to create this kind of perfect storm. You've got simultaneous plummeting of Barack Obama's policy approval numbers. You've got simultaneous distrust being sown back into the electorate when you hear Geithner and Summers, as you very articulately reported on this program, that they are saying, look, anyone making $249,999.99 is going to probably now see a tax increase. You're looking at an electorate that is losing trust in someone that promised hope and change. And if he loses this credibility that he's trying to build this kind of utopia on, everything else is shot. That, coupled with what we have been able to educate ourselves on regarding the healthcare debate in the last number of months, is combining to form this double whammy against the administration at this time.
Well, at this time, they're also controlling our studio lights, which worries me. But, Kevin, let me ask you this in all seriousness. Do you, again, if you don't mind indulging my benefit of the doubt, I'm trying to understand this. Sure. This is an administration that's very tech savvy, very internet savvy, emailed its VP choice announcement, got an email database that started this financial upswelling of support unlike we've ever seen before. So they want to know on the internet what folks are saying and then catalog it on the internet what folks are saying so they can flood emails out to counter what they're saying. And this is the way this very tech savvy administration fights its wars, not with any evil intentions, just efficient intentions. You're saying that's not what's going on, right?
I'm saying that there is a trust gap that is growing, and the problem with us accepting the benefit of the doubt explanation, as you've just articulately put it for us, is that we're seeing promises being broken in other regards. And when it comes to my personal privacy, the privacy of my own conversation, and Neil, as I might add, this isn't about a suspicious suitcase being left in the middle of Grand Central Station or some vehicle that's parked somewhere that looks suspicious. This is something that has to do with the core fundamental belief of taxation and health care, and we're having our own debate about it. If we're not allowed to have that in the confidence and privacy of our own home, in our own conversations, in our own casual conversations, this is no longer America.
Kevin, thank you very much. Left or right on this issue, I got to read what Kevin has put out here because he has framed this debate way beyond a liberal or conservative issue. Kevin, thank you very, very much. Kevin McCullough.
I appreciate it.
Well, you know, the judge say there's no way around this, left or right, red or blue. This is just plain illegal. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano joins me right now. Illegal.
It's absolutely unconstitutional. I mean, the Supreme Court has ruled directly on point. When Richard Nixon was worried about anti-war protesters during the Vietnam era, he sent FBI agents and undercover, CIA agents undercover, which was against the law for them to be operating in the U.S., and military in civilian garb to take photographs and to use tape recorders to record the voice of protesters. And they sued. It's a very famous case. And the Supreme Court said, the right to free speech is natural to us. It doesn't come from the government, it comes from our humanity. No government may interfere with it under any circumstances when you're expressing political speech about what the government is doing. And because
even if that's on a political site, in other words, if this is a Democratic National Committee does it, that's what you're saying. If it pops up on a White House government site, even though there are vested interests on that site.
The Democratic National Committee can ask anybody to tell it anything it wants. That's not the government. The First Amendment only restrains the government. Any government. The president, the Congress,
so when this crossed to potentially the White House site, then you were doing a no-no.
Then you're violating the Constitution. Because think about free speech. Sometimes it enlightens and illuminates. Sometimes it aggravates and offends. And the Supreme Court says because of that, it requires breathing room, figuratively and literally. The government can't get in your face with something, say, you want to criticize us? We want a copy of it. Literally, the government is prohibited from intimidating people from exercising free speech.